everyone. Welcome to the EO Wonder podcast. Today, we have the incredible Jim Cathcart, who's a strategic mentor and the top 1% of the world's most award-winning speakers. He speaks on topics like sales and how to be a better speaker. And today, he wants to tell everyone how to go pro. Jim, it's all yours.
Wow, what a great privilege. And thank you for just cutting me loose like this. Well, people ask me, Jim, what do you speak on? You know, you're a professional speaker. You've been doing it for 46 years full time. What do you speak on? And I've got one simple answer: professionalism. What do you mean professionalism? We don't have programs on professionalism. No, you have programs on sales, on leadership, on interpersonal communication, on public speaking, on customer service, on ethical business practices. All of that boils down to professionalism. If a person decides, I'm going to go pro, then they've just said the rules are changing right now. It's kind of like a person that says, I'm going to go on a diet. Okay, that just means they're going to change their regimen for a while. But what if a person, and by the way, I speak from experience. I used to be fat when I was younger, and I dieted successfully many, many times. And then one day I said, I'm tired of dieting. I'm going to become slender. So what's the difference? Well, the difference is slender people stay slender. In other words, a diet's not a temporary thing. A diet's simply one of the steps in their health and weight maintenance lifestyle. So I started changing my thinking, changing my lifestyle, changing my habits, changing what we kept in the food cabinet, and changing how I thought about food and fitness and life in general. And I became a slender person 40 plus years ago and have not had an issue with my weight since that time. Wow.
Would you say that that's the difference between change and transformation, like a butterfly, like a caterpillar to a butterfly? You cannot go back.
Nope. And transformation really is it, because when you say I'm going professional, then you've declared that you're ready to transform your performance, your existence, your lifestyle, your expectations, and the expectations others have of you. For example, let's take sports. Let's say you've been a golfer for years, you enjoy golf. One day you declare, I'm going pro. Whoop. What does that mean? Well, that means you're going to have to practice more. You're going to have to turn down other things so that you can focus on your game. You're going to have to raise the level of expectation for not only your practice, but your personal fitness, your mindset, who you're hanging out with, where you're going, what you do while you're there, what you're not doing any longer. You're going to be looking to upgrade your equipment so that you've got better clubs and better training. Golf's going to become a big part of your life.
You're going to get a coach.
Yeah. And I don't know of any major achievers in any sport who don't have a coach. And in many cases, multiple coaches. I've been a professional speaker since 1977, full time. I made the declaration in about 1974. Not about 1974. I made it in a seminar in Little Rock, Arkansas on August 28th, 1974 at the Sheraton Hotel. And the seminar leader was a guy named Gib Strammel. And the name of the seminar was Adventures in Attitudes. So yes, there was a moment where the world changed for me because I declared I will be a national expert in the field of personal growth within 5 years. And I had no hope to do that. You know, I didn't have a college degree. I wasn't a psychologist. I was working as a clerk at the Housing Authority, the Urban Renewal Agency in Little Rock, Arkansas. I was newly married with a baby at home, overweight and out of shape, smoking 2 packs a day. I was just basically a likable loser and, you know, a nice guy, but I wasn't going anywhere. And when I said in that seminar, I'm going to become a professional. I'm going to be an expert in the field of professional development. Personal growth is the way I articulated it at the time. And I put a time frame on it. My world changed radically. And 5 years later, with no assets going in except good expectations and general health, I lost 50 excess pounds of weight, became fit for the first time in my life, stopped smoking forever, never ever to smoke again. I didn't try to quit. I became a non-smoker, no matter how much it hurt or how long it took. So it took that long, and it's been permanent. I started getting involved in anything I could in the field of personal development. Easy for me to say, personal development. And I started reading all the classic books at the time, Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Power of Positive Thinking, things like that. And within 5 years, I was a full-time trainer teaching other people's courses. And I had left the job at the Housing Authority, and I was conducting training programs for pay. And so in 1979, I was a full-time trainer, but I was at the national headquarters of the Junior Chamber of Commerce, which at the time had 356,000 members nationwide.
So in 1977, you decided to go pro, and it made all the difference. Oh, 1974.
And that's when I wrote it down. And by 77, I was able to go out on my own full-time as a speaker and trainer. And I had left the JC's headquarters after a couple of years there, working as the guy in charge of leadership training for 356,000 people. What? And when I went out on my own, when I left the JC's and started my business as a full-time professional speaker and author, I had 5 bookings, and that's it. And that was over a 3-month period. And that was not enough to pay my monthly bills. So I jumped into the deep water at that time and just struggled with everything I could think of to schedule training programs and get myself out there to be successful as a professional speaker and author in the field of personal development and motivation. And so I took all the leadership training and all the interpersonal skills that I had learned in the trek going up to that position and applied them to business. And sure enough, at first I was teaching other people's courses. Then I developed my own. And then I wrote a book with a college professor in California. Then he and I became partners. And then I moved to California. I was living in Oklahoma to start with, Arkansas, then Oklahoma, then California. And in California, my business exploded. And I was doing 120 talks a year all over the world. I had a published book. I had an audio program that was doing really well, selling millions of dollars worth through Nightingale Conant Publishing Company. And today I'm sitting here, full-time professional speaker and author for 46 years. I've written 28 books, 24 of which have been published. I've got another one almost finished that'll come out next month. I've delivered 3,400 highly paid speaking engagements all over the world, been on around the world, completely around the world, lecture tours 3 separate times. The most recent one was in 2018. What else? I've received every major award in the field of professional speaking.
And you met the most incredible people.
That's unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, Kalika, think of the gap between the little fat kid at the Housing Authority and the man I have the privilege of being today. Holy smokes.
And as you built your career, you also met the most incredible people. You said that you knew Og Mandino. I mean, why don't you just share your network?
Og Mandino was the president of Success Magazine, Success Unlimited magazine at the time that I met him in the 1970s. And his boss was W. Clement Stone, the author of Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude, who had been the business partner of Napoleon Hill, the author of Think and Grow Rich. W. Clement Stone, at the time I met him, Hill had passed away, but Stone was the richest man in America. He was the Warren Buffett or Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos of his day, and just mega rich. And I had the chance to work with him, to sit on committees with him. I'd been in his personal office, which, a bit of trivia, in the bathroom of his personal office in Chicago, he had imported pigskin floor covering. The floor was like a football. That just amazed me. I'd never seen that before, leather floor covering.
Wow.
But Stone was an amazing guy. And Augmandino became a good friend of mine, and he and I served together on the board of the National Speakers Association, which is what this little pen is about. It's a little tiny microphone with a diamond chip in it, indicating I was president of the National Speakers Association back in 88 and 89. I got to know Zig Ziglar, got to know him well. As a matter of fact, after Zig passed away, his son, Tom Ziglar, hired me to be the keynote speaker for the Ziglar Learning Corporation just a couple of years ago. And Zig wrote the cover endorsement for my first copy of Relationship Selling, which came out in 1985. I mean, name it, all the big names of then and now. I've just been recruiting book endorsements for my next book, which is called What to Do When You're the Speaker, and it'll come out in a month or so. And so far, just in this week, I've received endorsements from Brian Tracy, Les Brown, Ivan Meisner of BNI, Business Networking International. Gosh, just on and on like that. And Les Brown, I sent him a text and I said, hey, Les, would you be interested or would you be willing to write a little endorsement for my upcoming book on speaking? So my phone rings and he said, Jim, it's Les. He said, open your text. So I opened my text and there's a video from him. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I just want you to see this. He sent me this.
Hello, I'm Les Brown. I want to strongly recommend to you a book that I feel all of us need in this era of accelerated change, overwhelming complexity.
Isn't that amazing?
That's amazing. So
I mean,
when you
here's
go
a guy
pro,
who's
so Jim,
considered
when you
one
go
of the-
pro, you
Yeah.
change the people you hang out with as well. Like Augmandino, who we talked about earlier, wrote one of your favorite books, The Greatest Salesman in the World, which has helped everyone. Zig Ziglar, he wrote See You at the Top. So when you go pro, your friends change too, right? The original copy. There you go.
Look at this, though.
That's you and him.
No, that's
No?
Zig Ziglar and Norman Vincent
Oh,
Peale,
wow.
The Power of Positive Thinking. And I knew Dr. Peale as well. But this is, I mean, talk about an early copy. See You at the Top. I got this at a seminar in Tulsa, Oklahoma on, let's see what the date was, 1975. I don't remember the exact day, but oh my gosh.
And these
And
are
then-
extraordinary books that can help everyone with sales and their businesses.
These out.
Okay, what is
This
that?
is first edition Think and Grow Rich.
Wow.
This is a very early How to Win Friends and Influence People
Oh,
by
Dale Carnegie. Look what I have on my desk. How to influence. See? Look what I
I
have.
love it. I love it.
But it's not
That's what
signed.
it looked like in the early days.
Wow.
And then here's one, Dr.
Oh,
Peale,
yes.
Power of Positive Thinking.
And these are all the books everyone who's listening needs to get in order for you to be successful and to go pro.
Absolutely. And there's another one.
Okay, what is it?
Most everybody's heard about this one, The Science of
Oh,
Getting Rich.
yes. I have that
Wallace
too.
Wattles.
Look at mine here.
There you go. Yep. The Science of Success. Who is that one by?
Wallace
wrote-
Wattles. Yours. Wallace
The
Wattles.
Science- Oh, Wallace Wattles. Okay.
Yeah, that's what you have.
Well, The Science of Getting Rich. See, the one you have has 3 books in it.
Yes, yes. Science
This
of
is one of those
Success.
3.
Yes,
And
correct.
here's
And
another
look,
one
mine
in
is
that 3 that I strongly recommend. How to Be a Genius,
How to Be a Genius. I'm
which
gonna
is
get
the
that.
science of being great. And in this book, he says something that just stuck with me all these years. He said, wisdom is reading the mind of God.
Ah, wow.
Whoa,
Wow.
that's an inspiring quote.
Yes.
You know,
Wow.
no matter what a person's religious point of view is, everybody recognizes something is behind it all. You know, there is some kind of creator. Maybe that's Mother Nature. Maybe it's some gray bearded guy sitting on a mountaintop. Maybe it's universal intelligence. But reading the mind of the creator, the original source of all.
Wow.
That's what Buckminster Fuller said he did when he was looking for insights. He said, I would look for God's fingerprint. That was his way of saying it. He would look for fractals. He'd look for patterns in nature that told him how things worked. When he developed the concept of the geodesic dome, which is the strongest yet lightest weight structure known to man, he discovered it by studying the structure of the eye of a common housefly. He looked for patterns in nature he could create or recreate to do things, you know, mechanically, engineering wise, or whatever else to solve problems. So if you want to get serious and go pro in any field, make your declaration today. I declare, you know, here's my flag in the ground. I'm going pro. I'm going to turn professional. That means I'm going to work on me. I'm going to become a person who's more honorable, more accountable, more intentional, more disciplined, more valuable to the people I serve. And I'm going to adhere to the 5 qualities that define a professional. Well educated for what you do. Your education never ends. It's constantly renewed and refreshed, so you're up to date. You do it for pay. You do it as a service to other people, and you do it according to a set of ethical standards. That's what it means to go pro.
You also say, so that first step, you say that's clarity. You also say it requires confidence and courage. How do you get that? How do you get that?
Well, clarity, you know, the world asks us one question all our life, everywhere we go, every single day. What do you want? You know, if you're in your car and you're about to pull out into traffic, the other traffic looks at you and they say, where are you going? What do you want? You know, are you going to pull out? Are you going to sit there? You turn to right or left? What? Right? And until you indicate what you want, nobody else will adjust to you. But if you indicate, like with a turn signal or by movement, what you want, the rest of the world tends to get out of your way and let you get it, right? If you go into a restaurant and the server comes over, the first thing they want to know is, what do you want, right? And you say, I don't know. What do you think I should have? Well, our most expensive item is the steak Diane. Would you like that? Well, no, I don't like that. Well, what do you want soup? No. Until you decide what you want, the rest of the world has to just sit there and look. I sure wish he'd make up his mind, right? Same thing's true when you walk into a coffee shop. The barista says, good morning, what do you want? Right? So what does that mean? Why am I saying so much of, you know, about what do you want? Because that's what goal setting is. When you say, well, wait, I would write down the goals of the things I want, but I don't know how to get them. That's the point. That is the point of goals. If you know how to get it, it's not a goal, it's a to-do. If you don't know how to get it, it's a goal. That's when you turn your dreams into ink and you put them on a piece of paper. And by the way, in doing so, you have to reduce them from an image or a feeling to words so that they're tangible and measurable. And then you look at them and you say, well, that's kind of nebulous. I think I need to explain. And so you get more specific. And then when you put a time frame on that, all of a sudden your dream takes on an urgency. And you start thinking, well, okay, if I'm going to do this in, say, 5 years, then I need to really get going this year, because it's going to take a while to grow. Or you say, okay, by the time I'm 90 years old, I'm going to do X. Well, fine, no hurry, right? So the more specific you are about what you want, the more other things tend to come together to help you get it. So there's such a thing as called selective perception. Selective perception is when you are talking with someone and a subject comes up and you only ask questions to confirm what you already believe or feel about it. Well, then you're ignoring anything that would counter your point of view, and you're narrowing the information that comes to you to only what you like to hear, right? Well, that's a pretty poor and dangerous way to live your life. The same thing's true visually. If you go to a sporting event or a concert and you're sitting in the audience, just try this exercise sometime. Look at the audience, look at the thousands of people before you and say, yellow, and see how many things in your vision, your field of vision, are yellow. They will pop out at you. When you're thinking about the color yellow, you'll start noticing yellow everywhere. And then say, red. Gosh. And it's almost like your eyes are changing. They're not. Your brain is simply tuning in to the different inputs. White. Wow. So whatever we select, we perceive. And if our perception is intentionally focused on things that will aid the achievement of our goal, then the achievement of the goal comes much more quickly. Do you ever notice that if you buy a new car or lease a new car, that all of a sudden you start noticing more people have that same car?
Yes.
I didn't see those before. Yes, you did. You didn't notice them before. Aha. You saw them. It just didn't capture your attention.
So the first step for you to get what you want is to know what you want, and your internal GPS system will direct you there.
Exactly. When people enroll in my Going Pro program, which was a year-long mentorship, when they enroll, I tell them the first thing we're going to do is clarity. We're going to focus on figuring out what you really want. Not just what you say you want, not just what you think you want, but you're going to go through a series of exercises and discussions with me and others that will lead you to laser clarity on what it is you really, really, really want in your heart of hearts. What would make your spirit soar and make you so happy you couldn't go to sleep because the smile won't remove from your face. You know, that's what I want to do first. And then once a person has clarity, the second thing they need is integrity. To look at everything they do day to day, every person they associate with, every book they read, every resource they use, every place they go, everything they think about intentionally, and integrate it all. Make everything feed that main goal. And the things that don't feed the main goal, delay them. You know, you don't have to eliminate them, but at least delay them or move them to the side at first. Like my friend, Dr. John Lee, a time management specialist, he says, if you've got a big workload, use the 4 Ds, letter D, the 4 Ds to reduce the workload to the right size. Okay, what is it? First, what can I drop and never do it all and it won't really matter? You look at everything. Well, yeah, there are things I could do without. Okay, that narrowed the field. Now, what can I delay and not do it now, but do it for sure later on? And so you take things that'll wait and you schedule them. You don't just push them aside and procrastinate. You schedule them to a very specific time when you're going to pick them up again and work on them. So drop, delay. Now you've narrowed the field even more, and you're down to a much more manageable group. What can I delegate? What could I give to someone else and have them do it and then report back to me? Well, nothing. Okay. Who could I train so that things would become delegatable to them? Oh, or what software could I acquire? What what subscription service could I log into that would allow me to delegate some of these things to something else, even AI, to get it done, or at least get the first parts done without my continued attention and effort. And then finally, what are the remaining items that are left? Okay, I'm going to do them in order of priority. What's important and urgent, what's important but not urgent, what's urgent, what's not important, not urgent.
So to recap, drop, delay, delegate, then do.
Yep.
Wow, that's a formula for time management by John Lee. Amazing. Wow.
Yep.
So let's catch everyone up. We talked about clarity. We talked about integrity. You also talk about confidence and courage. How does that help with helping you go pro?
If you'll notice, most professionals, if not all professionals, true professionals in any field, they spend a lot of time rehearsing, practicing, doing it once again, right?
They're not winging it.
No, they're not waiting, and they're not winging it at all. The old thing about public speaking is it used to be considered cool if you get up in front of a group and you say, you know what, I had all this prepared speech, but I'm just going to talk from my heart. I would say, excuse me, meeting adjourned. Now, what? You don't think we should talk from our heart? Of course we should. Of course we should mean what we say. And of course, our speech or presentation or whatever we're doing should be well organized, but it shouldn't be so structured that it's like reading from a book. If our heart's not in it, neither should our body be. So do what you care about, do what you believe in, do what you think is right, or do something else, for heaven's sakes, right? And if you're going to give a presentation, get prepared. Spend time thinking it through from the audience's point of view. People come to me for speech coaching all the time, and my next book is called What to Do When You're the Speaker. But when people come to me for coaching, they say, Jim, I'm this powerful executive in other people's eyes. I've got lots and lots of money, people, and things under my supervision. And people think that I'm bold and confident all the time. But when I get up in front of a group, I'm terrified. And I tell them, and I know why. You know why I'm terrified? How could you know that? Because it's always the same reason. And what's the reason? You're thinking about you. Well, yeah. Think about the message and its value to them. So if you can get the focus off of you and on what you're doing and why you're doing it, your confidence grows. Lack of confidence comes from two things. It comes from not knowing or practicing what you're going to do. In other words, you've got no readiness for it, right? You're winging it. You're just speaking from the heart. You're speaking from actually somewhere further down than that. The second thing is it comes from a focus on yourself, trying to impress people. There is really no fear of public speaking. There is a fear of judgment. It's not speaking that scares people. It's speaking and then having people say, oh, that was awful, right? Or, oh, I'm not as impressed with you as I thought I'd be. Or, oh, you're not so much, right? That's what they're afraid of. So how do you get beyond that? Forget about you. Focus on them. Well, what if but I need to dress appropriately, behave. Yeah. Here's the key word, appropriate. Well, should I put on a suit? Should I be, be appropriate. Appropriate to what? If you're going to a rodeo, wear boots. If you're going to a swimming party, do not wear a three-piece suit. Don't wear your gown to the dance. Wear your gown to the formal gala, right? So be appropriate in your attire, appropriate in your behavior. appropriate in what you talk about, appropriate in the way you show respect and interest in other people, appropriate to the purpose for your involvement. And if you do that, your confidence grows and your courage grows along with it. Courage, though, it either comes from, and probably both, but it either comes from a depth of conviction that you're willing to die for this cause. You know, like a mother might step out in front of a oncoming train to save her child, and her courage would be huge. Her skill might be zero, and she might perish in the process of saving her child. But her courage would be great, right? But because of the depth of conviction and commitment to that child, right? But then there's also the courage that comes from having done this so many times, you could almost do it in your sleep. That's why in military and in martial arts, they have you practice again and again and again and again and again. And then they give you adversaries and you practice against adversaries. And the more you practice when the pressure's on, the more your ability increases and your courage along with it. So that's how you develop clarity, confidence, and courage. And the 3 steps that I go through with people in the mentorship, number 1, clarity. And that takes a lot. It's not that easy. You can't just, I'm clear. Oh, no, I get it. No, there's a lot more to that. So you get really, really clear. Second thing, integrity. Start looking at everything and let it feed the main purpose. And then third, make sure it's natural to who you are, that you are living it, that it's not just integrity, but it's part of your nature. It's like DNA, you know, like the acorn. This is a little pewter acorn that I carry with me. And I wrote a book called The Acorn Principle. And the acorn principle is the seed of your future success already lives inside you. So nurture your nature. Don't try to be something you're not. Try to be the best of what you are. And the DNA of what you are is what you believe, your mission, your vision, your values, your goals, your dreams, your beliefs. That's your DNA from a practical purpose or practical standpoint. And it's also the DNA of an organization. If you have a big organization or you're building one, the key to growing that is going to be figuring out, what do we believe? What do we stand for? What do we care about? Why do we exist? From the receiver, the customer's point of view. And then once you're clear on that, man, everything else comes together. And by the way, for hiring, pardon me for cutting you off, but for hiring people, how do you know a person's a candidate for your organization? Because their DNA matches your DNA. If they believe in, care about, and stand for what you do, they'll feel like family. If they don't, no matter how many skills they bring to the table, no matter how many contacts, no matter how much clout they're bringing to the table, they're going to feel like an outsider to you and everybody else, and they're not going to last long anyway.
So you actually attract the people that you want to be part of your organization.
Yes.
For this mission. Yeah.
And you should always be recruiting. Everywhere you go, you say, well, I don't need more employees, Jim. Doesn't matter. You will someday. And as you grow, you will identify new opportunities. Say, wow, wish we had somebody that could handle that. Well, be on the lookout. Be a talent hunter and just search for it everywhere you go. And you usually don't find talent behaving in the way you want it to yet. You find it in other ways. You find a server in a restaurant. You find a clerk at a store. You find a colleague at a sporting event near you. You know, you find people that you're impressed with and you say, we could use those qualities in our organization. So you stay in touch, even if there's no opportunity, and the opportunities emerge.
Another benefit for going pro, you say, is more sales. And I know that you are an expert in sales. You know, for the remaining part of our podcast, you know, because there are a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners listening, How can people get more sales or be a better salesperson?
Well, item one is remember that selling is paid problem solving. People say, well, I've got a microphone for sale. I want to sell this microphone. What do I need to tell people? What do you need to ask people? And which people should you be asking? Who needs a microphone? Speakers don't need microphones. Of course they do. No, they don't. Audiences need speakers to have microphones. See, if nobody's listening, it doesn't matter if you're amplified. If people are trying to listen, though, this could help a whole lot, right? So find people that have a need to be amplified and sell them your microphone. So whatever it is you're selling, if it's houses for the homeless, it doesn't matter what it is you've got. Find out who needs it and houses for the homeless, who could pay for it. Not the homeless, but whoever's sponsoring that, who cares about that cause, that would be the person you'd go to talk about funding this project. So if you're selling technology, if you're selling, artificial intelligence, whatever you're selling, think about the effect of it and start with the need and come back to the solution. And then you can figure out how to articulate that so other people say, I want that. And by the way, number one skill for salespeople is a desire to help others with their product or service. Number two is the discipline to show up every day and keep making contacts until you find the people you can help. Because most salespeople tend to be lazy. The successful ones are never the lazy ones. The ones who are lazy, they confuse sales and marketing. They say, well, I've been sending out a lot of emails and I've been, doing a lot of posts on social media and I'm going to networking events and I'm giving out a lot of brochures, but I'm just not getting much business. Well, excuse me, that's marketing. That's not selling. Well, what's the difference? Sales, marketing, it's the same. No, it's not. I went to a university. I was doing some consulting with them and their entrepreneurship program. And I said, you don't have a course in this university on selling. They said, oh, yeah, it's covered. It is where? In our marketing curriculum. I've looked at your marketing curriculum. They don't teach selling. Oh, yeah, they do. I said, have you ever been a salesperson? No. Then that's why you think that way. Let me explain something to you. Marketing is creating awareness and interest, or awareness and maybe demand, stimulating demand for what you have. Selling is converting it into ownership and being paid. Marketing is creating awareness and demand. Selling is converting that demand into ownership and being paid for it. So separate skill sets. And the courses that I've created on selling don't talk much about marketing, because marketing is just, say Lexus, we have cars and here's an advertisement on television and in the movies. Here's our car. Isn't it wonderful? Wow. Yeah. Wouldn't that be great? And you go to expos and you have cars on display and you allow people to take them for test drives. Wow, these are wonderful cars. I'd like to get one someday. That's not selling. That's marketing. Selling is when you say, Kalika, what kind of car are you driving today?
Tesla.
Really? How much longer do you think you'll keep that car? Oh, maybe 6 months. So when it's time to trade, what are you going to be looking for most in your next car? Well, I'm going to want da, 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 da. Oh, may I show you those features in our car? Well, sure, but I'm not going to buy today. Understood. So I show you those features in our car and you think, this is really nice. I'd really like to have this car. Hey, this is good, Jim. I might want one of these when it's time to trade. Okay, well, here's my card and, just stay in touch between now and time to trade. By the way, how many payments do you have remaining on your existing car? 4. how much is the payment? Okay. I'll tell you what, if I could get you into this new car at about the same payment level, and we could waive those payments that exist on your current car, would you like to drive one of these home today? And all of a sudden, Kalika's saying, where's my checkbook? Right? So
Wow.
that's selling. And that's not marketing. But marketing sure makes selling easier. And selling makes marketing worthwhile.
You often get the question, how do I be a better salesperson? And you say, well, which part of selling? There's several parts.
That's true. Well, when I started doing sales training, I wrote manuals, and then the manuals became workbooks, and the workbooks became video programs, and all of that needed a book. And so I wrote the book Relationship Selling and became widely known for that. And then I wrote the Sales IQ online assessment. And all the work I've done in selling over all these years has addressed selling as a whole, not as one piece of it. And most people think of selling as just the dialogue. No, selling is preparation, and there's self-preparation and sales preparation. It's targeting the right people and the right organizations in the right ways. It's connecting with them so that you gain the trust in their heart or their emotions and the credibility in their head, rational and emotional both, connecting with the people, head and heart, assessing their needs and their wants, showing them how you can solve their problem, not just explaining it, but showing, demonstrating it, and getting them involved in the dialogue. And then confirming their commitment to buy. Notice I didn't say closing, because it's not going to close, it's going to commence. So call it confirming the sale, not closing the sale, and you're more accurate. So you're confirming in writing or whatever their commitment to buy. And then you assure that they're satisfied now and that they become a loyal client of yours over time by nurturing them, nurturing the account and taking care of them, fulfilling your promises. And then you manage your accounts, you manage sales, and you manage yourself as a salesperson. Now, that's 8 stages: preparation, targeting, connecting, assessing, solving, confirming, assuring, managing. Each one of those stages in a sales cycle requires different skill set, although they overlap a lot. So if you develop great planning skills, it won't make you necessarily good in follow through and assuring satisfaction. If you're great at sales management, you're not necessarily great at connecting with the head and heart to get their trust. So, there are different skill sets. So everything I do around sales training teaches people how to master each of those. And by the way, almost nobody masters all of those without help. So you're naturally suited to some, I'm naturally suited to some of the others. And both of us need resources to fill the gaps, like software or, tools, sales tools, or a system, or, whatever. We need tools to help us fill the gaps. And once we do that, then we're able to consistently produce sales time after time after time.
I have a big question for you.
Yeah.
How do people deal with sales rejection?
Poorly. How do people deal with sales rejection and continue to have a good attitude and a good life and good sales success? That's the broader question that you're posing, of course.
Correct.
Yep.
How do they get better at it?
Yeah. It's never going to feel good to have people say no. But when you recognize that a no is simply a response to what they know at this point in time. So if I come up to somebody and I say, would you like to book me as the keynote speaker for your upcoming global convention? They would probably say no. And if I took that personally, then I would say they don't like me. No, they don't know even who I am, for heaven's sakes. So when's your next convention? August. Where's your next convention? Brussels. How many people are coming? 2,000. What's the focus of the convention? The focus of it is on professionalism. Whoa. I happen to specialize in professionalism. Really? How do you define professionalism? And I tell them, and they say, well, are you available in August in Brussels? What's your fee? Now we're getting into planning. It's a matter of making it happen instead of a matter of me trying to convince them to buy me, right? So when you're rejected, just see it as part of a continuum. How many people need what you have? You could say everybody could benefit from it. How many people really need what you have? Let's say it's 3 out of 50. Okay. If you're going out at random calling on people, you're going to have 47 of them say no before you get to the 3. So if you've called on 20, that means you're only 27 more away from 3 yeses, although they don't come in that kind of a sequence. But you see what I mean, percentage-wise, working the odds. Now, if you're more intelligent about who you're calling on, instead of calling on 50 people that you know nothing about, why don't you call on 20 that you know a lot about? And within that 20, you've still got 3. Because those 3 weren't in that other 27, right? So now you've got 3 people out of 20. What if out of those 20, you had a process that eliminated the non-prospects real fast? In other words, in the first part of the dialogue, you could tell whether this was going or not going, and you could say, thank you for your time, and then move on. So now out of 20 people you contact, you only have limited contact with 10 of them. And now you're down to 3 out of 10, 30%. 30% buying rate? Are you kidding me? That's pretty doggone good. And the better you get at what you do, the more it goes from 10 to 7 to 5. You get down to where out of every, because I'm so smart about what I'm doing now, because I'm so skilled at finding out what people need and showing them how I can help, because I'm so practiced and confident in the way I present my solutions and nurture people along the decision process to confirm the sale. Because of that, I now am spending most of my time with 5 people at a time, 3 of whom I know are probably going to buy. Whoa, that's powerful. That's how you deal with sales rejection. Don't call on people who are going to reject you except for a moment or two, and get them over with real fast.
Yeah, and like you said, it doesn't feel good. So are there any other routines or habits that they can do just to make them feel better, rather than
yes,
drinking alcohol?
Yeah, good.
Or numbing themselves?
Yeah, exactly. I have a friend who's just a delightful consultant and trainer. And she called me and told me about some accounts she was working on, and she wanted a little bit of sales coaching on how to approach those accounts, and I offered it. And she called me back and she said, well, they keep delaying and giving me yeses, but then something comes up. And she was getting really upset about it. And I said, how many more people do you have on the table that you're dealing with right now? Well, just a couple. Then your problem is not these 3. Your problem is your pipeline's empty. Call on more people. Go find more people that might buy, that you might be able to help, and initiate contact with them and get them into the sequence that leads to a sale. Because you could work on these 3 and maybe ultimately get them, but you would have spent so much time, you would have missed 10 or 20 or 30 more sales you could have made had you been throwing a bigger net instead of just going out with the spear to catch that one fish.
Yeah, and then once you do have a lot of these sales under your belt, you build your confidence so that if someone says no, it's okay.
Yeah.
Because you've done it again, you've practiced receiving that no as well, and also giving them the space to tell you no, right?
Exactly.
They're okay. that's fine. Like they're on their own journey. Let them say no, right? They have a
Mhm.
choice. Giving them that respect that, yeah, you can say no to me too. But a lot of people say that people don't like to be sold to, but they like to buy.
People love to buy.
Yeah,
Everybody loves to
right,
buy.
right.
But you're absolutely right. People don't want to feel like they were sold, but boy, do they love to buy. And so that means it's not about you telling them about your product. See, that's the thing. Selling is telling is an old thing from years ago that never was true. Selling is helping for pay. I suppose you could do it for free, but why? But when you're getting nervous in sales, it's because you're either not telling the truth or you're focusing on what you have to say and not what difference it'll make for them. If you look at most recordings of sales dialogue, you'll find that where people were able to record one and study it afterwards, you'll find that when the salespeople got nervous was when they stopped asking questions and they spent too much time talking. And then they started talking faster, thinking that the more information they get out there, the more likely the person is to buy. Not true. The more the person feels engaged and like you're making the decision together, that's the more likely they will be to buy. So think of selling that way and use this. If you're getting nervous, just pause and ask yourself, why not just tell the truth? What do you mean? Well, don't try to manipulate people. Don't try to guide them down some garden path. Just tell them the truth. Well, what if the truth is my product's not as good as that product? Is your product less expensive? Yeah. There's your edge. Tell the truth. You don't have to run yours down, but you do have to build up the parts of yours that are more appealing, right?
I
Well,
love
what if
that.
it's the same price, but mine's more reliable, but theirs is more popular and more famous? Again, just tell the truth.
Tell the truth. Oh.
Yeah.
So, Jim, I know that you're also an accomplished entertainer, and I would love for you to share, you know, some of your talents.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I
Maybe
have
tell everyone.
I have here with me 3 guitars,
Yeah.
and I love to play and sing, and I do it professionally. That's my side gig. I'm a part-time guitarist and singer, and my wife sings with me. And we perform in clubs and at special events. Just the other day in Nashville, Tennessee, I was speaking at a conference where they had bought on my behalf a guitar like this one, although not
Wow.
quite as expensive. They bought an inexpensive guitar, acoustic electric guitar, from Guitar Center and brought it to the meeting. I had recommended they do this, and we gave the guitar away. So what happened was I came out on the stage at first, and I said, "I thought love was only true in fairy tales, meant for someone else, but not for me. Love was out to get me, that's the way it seemed. Disappointment haunted all my dreams. Then I saw her face. Now I'm a believer, not a trace down in my mind." So I went on, I sang that song, which was made popular by a group called the Monkees, but it was written by Neil Diamond. And anyway, I played the song and had some fun with the audience. And then I did another song for them. And then during my presentation, there was a point where I could bring the guitar out again. So I did. And at the end, I said, we're going to have a little drawing here. For those of you who are signed up for that, your name's in the hat, and we're going to have a drawing, and the winner gets this guitar. And they all just, wow. And I had signed the guitar. with a marker. And there were other presenters on the program with me. And we arranged for the other presenters to also sign the guitar. And at the end of my talk, we held the drawing, and a guy came up out of the audience and received his guitar, and he was just thrilled. And he got all the other people to sign it, and he took it home with him. Now, what do you think is going to happen to that guitar when he gets home? Is he going to put it in a guitar case and put it in the closet? Absolutely not. He's going to get a hanger and put it on the wall, like I've done with my guitars over here. Why would he do that? Because he's proud of it, because it means something to him. Well, what if he doesn't play guitar? Does it matter? No. And how's he going to feel toward the company for presenting him with a guitar at the event? He's going to feel great toward that company, and that memory is going to last for a long time. And every family member, every friend, every visitor who comes over is going to say, wow, nice guitar. What are all those signatures? And he's going to talk about the company, the event, and he's going to relive the memory. So with one little $200 or $300 expenditure, maybe 500, I don't know, but less than $500, that company made an imprint on one of their top performers that will last for decades. You say, yeah, but they could have given him a really nice jacket, which would have lasted a few seasons, or they could have given him a very nice leather binder, which would have lasted a few seasons. But think of the impact of that one.
So as part of personal development, it's also making sure that you have and do something that you love.
Absolutely. When you're doing something that brings you joy, it shows and everybody else can tell it. It's kind of hard to miss the fact that I'm having fun when I'm playing guitar. I'll do one more for you, or a piece of one.
Please.
I did this one in Bogota, Colombia. I was speaking to help raise funds for an entity called Fundación Oportunidad, which was an Opportunity Foundation that raises funds to provide a school, a very nice school, for kids who live in the barrio, kids in poverty. And they'd bring them in each day and give them clean uniforms and feed them well and teach them life skills so that they wouldn't have to grow up with a life of crime and poverty like they had known up to that point. And so when I was speaking, I came out on the stage with a guitar and I sang, "My child arrived just the other day, came to the world in the usual way, but there were planes to catch and bills to pay. He learned to walk while I was away. He was talking for I knew it. And as he grew, he'd say, I'm gonna be like you, Dad. You know I'm gonna be like you." It's called The Cat's in the Cradle. And it's a beautiful song that's very well known. And the audience loved it, and I had fun with it. And we talked about what does that mean, how we get too busy to spend time with our kids, and a lot of times they end up going the wrong direction. And then I talked about my message, and they raised a lot more money that night than they were expecting to raise. So there are ways to incorporate what you love into what you're doing for pay, or to take what you love and get paid for doing it, because I do that too. It just doesn't happen to pay quite as much as this other work does.
And it's also being of service, you talked about earlier.
True.
Yeah.
Coming from the heart. Our job, each of us, is to make the world a better place. And when we do that, we feel a sense of satisfaction inside. We earn more money than we would have earned doing things we don't particularly believe in. And everybody else can feel that. And they say, well, I want to be like her. I want to be like him. They say, I don't know what it is about you, but there's something that you've got that's worth going after. So teach me to have it too.
Yeah, and there's so much room for everyone to be successful. They don't need to be jealous, right? They can just take the steps towards being successful.
Yep. We
Yeah.
don't, there's not a soul in the world we need to be jealous of. There are plenty of people we can learn from.
So, how can people get in touch with you, book you, have you be their mentor?
Well, there's two ways. One, it is you can just go to my website, cathcart.com/experts. And that's got a full description of how I work with people in mentor program, because I train people to be a certified professional expert. And at the end of a year-long process, we give them truly a certificate. They are a certified professional expert, just like I've been a certified professional speaker by the National Speakers Association. The other thing is, I have been for 40 plus years now a keynote speaker and seminar leader, and I love doing that. And I've been all over the world doing it. I did from 2015 to 2019, pre-COVID, I did 23 major cities in mainland China. I spoke in Poland. I spoke in South America, like I mentioned, Colombia and Argentina. No, not Argentina, Chile, and spoken 10 times in Australia. So Indonesia, I love travel and love working with international audiences. So as a keynote speaker, just go to cathcart.com or look me up with my name anywhere. All the social media has me. Wikipedia has me, for heaven's sakes.
TED
So Jim
Talk?
Cathcart's kind of easy. Yeah. Oh,
TED?
that's right. I did a TED Talk. Now this is interesting, and I know we're running out of time, but I want to just highlight this. Becky Woodbridge was in charge of a TEDx event in, I'll think of it in a minute, Florida. And she said, Jim, I want you to come to Florida and be a speaker, a presenter in our TEDx event. We have 16 presenters. And I said, okay. And so I went to Florida and I delivered my speech as part of, the overall event. My speech was 8 minutes and 22 seconds long. 8 minutes, one of 16 speakers. After it was over, they published that on YouTube in the TEDx publishing. My speech caught on and went viral. It's had 2.6 million views all over the world. At one point, I was getting, for like 3 or 4 years running, 1,000 views a day with zero promotion. Good heavens. Out of the other 16 speakers, I don't think there's more than 1 or 2 that even got 100,000 views, let alone, 2.5 million. I think the reason mine went over so well was not because I was brilliant. I think it was because the title, and the title was sticky, appealing, and the length was short. They could see it was 8.5 minutes, and they could see that the title was How to Believe in Yourself. And that TEDx talk has been stronger than any speaker brochure I ever could have promoted. I tell you, it's been a great marketing tool.
We'll put that link in the show notes as well, because everyone needs to see
Thank
it,
you for that.
because everyone needs to believe in themselves first. Yeah. Thank you so
Believe
much, Jim.
in the seed that's in you.
Mm,
Be natural to who you are. Don't try to be something else.
right. Thank you so much for being of such service to all the entrepreneurs that are listening. And I'd love to connect you with EO, because more people need to hear your message
It'd
and
be a joy
have
for
you
me.
speak. And I'll reach
I've
out to you
spoken
after this.
over the years for YPO and other groups, in that genre, and it would be a joy and a privilege to appear at EO events wherever they are.
All right. Thank you so much, Jim. And thank you so much for the songs. It really lifted my day. And everywhere you go, you're just like a shining light. So thank you for lighting up my corner of the universe, and everyone who's listening. I'm sure that they were just lifted by just your spirit. You want to just share with everyone how old you are too?
Sure. I was born in 1946. I am 76 at the time of this recording.
And
So
you
just
are
getting started.
healthy.
And I got plenty of rock and roll time left in me.
Yes, you're such an inspiration. I hope all of us can be as vibrant and energetic and giving as you are.
Thank you, Kalika.
Yeah.
That's very generous of you. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll hopefully see you soon.